This is Just with Faith, real life, real mind, real faith. Let's get into it. We're going to talk about something really, really cool today. If you haven't clicked that sub button, that notification bell, I don't know what you're waiting for, but go ahead and do that for me, please. But before I get to the intro, I need to ask you something. Have you ever been in a conversation fully present, fully engaged? You know exactly what you want to say, and then the moment you open your mouth, something completely different comes out, like the thought was fully formed, it was right there, and then between your brain and your mouth, something got lost in the translation.
In this cosmic abyss, my mind takes flight.
Or have you ever been listening to someone talk and you're genuinely trying to follow, you're nodding, you're making eye contact, you look like you're right there with them, and then they finish talking. You realize you caught maybe 40% of what they actually said, and now you have to respond to 40% you caught and hope it covers the 60% you missed. Or and this one really gets people. Someone is talking to you while the TV is on, or there's a background noise, or two conversations happening at once. Your brain just completely checks out. Not because you don't care, not because you're being rude, but because something in your processing just went offline. If any of this sounds familiar, this episode is for you because what you're experiencing is not a personality flaw. It's not about being rude. It's our ADHD brain navigating communication in a way that the world assumes everyone's brain is processing language the same way. It does not, okay? Our brain doesn't process everything the same. So your thoughts move faster than your words do. Let me start with speaking side of this, okay? Because I think this is one of the one that causes most confusion and the shame in a relationship. The ADHD brain processes at a pace that the speech cannot match. Thoughts arrive in clusters, they jump between connections, they jump on before the mouth even finished the previous sentence. What comes out is often fragment of what was meant. The person on the other end gets part of the point and all of the confusion. You know exactly what I mean. You know what I mean? You know what we're trying to say. It just didn't arrive that way. And here is what happens when, neurologically now brain, right? Because before you speak, your brain needs to identify what to say, sequence it logically, so I can even speak, start talking, and adjust based on how the listener is responding. Individuals with ADHD like us, often we struggle with four steps, okay, all of them, all four steps simultaneously each time you open your mouth. So the thought is fully formed in the head, right? But the process of taking that thought and converting it into organized sequential speech, the process requires the executive function, which we struggle, okay? And the executive function exactly what the ADHD compromises. One of the most challenges for adults with ADHD is difficulty organizing thoughts, which can make it easy to go off topic during conversations. Disorganized thoughts can make it difficult to find the right words needed to communicate effectively. This can even simply exchange like make simple exchange with a close friend feel overwhelming. Even simple exchanges with a close friend makes super overwhelming, okay? That line right there, because it's not just about being important conversations, right? We already know important conversations are hard, but simple, easy conversations, whether it's with your spouse or friends, the casual ones that everyone seems to move on effortlessly, and you're over here in every conversation doing four times the cognitive work that to just get one sentence out coherently. And then there's the word finding piece. Word finding piece can be harder, particularly under pressure. You might know exactly what you want to say, but struggle to retrieve the right word or respond quickly in the conversation. I struggle with that a lot, especially with my spouse, right? You have had this experience. I know you have. Okay. If you have ADHD, you struggle with this, at least a portion of it. That word is right there. You can feel it. You can describe it. You can almost see it. It's like right there, and it will not come out. And the other person is waiting, and the pressure of waiting makes it even worse. And then, you say something or something approximately of what you meant, and it comes out wrong. And then now the conversation has gone sideways, and you're trying to course correct the failing, and you're going further behind. Now, it's not about us having super bad communication skills. This is just our executive function under pressure, doing exactly what the ADHD brain does. Okay. Now, listening is actually a 4-point job at once. Okay. Now, because I think this is where most relationship damage happens from ADHD communication difficulties. People see someone zone out during conversations. They think, oh, they're not listening. They do not care. They're distracted. They're being dismissive. And what is actually happening is completely different. Listening, real active listening, is not one thing. It actually is four simultaneous cognitive talk tasks happening at the same time. You're managing your internal noise. You're tracking the thread of what the person is saying. You are suppressing the impulse to jump in. You're holding your own response in working memory so you have something to say when it returns. Four jobs simultaneously, every single conversation. And the problem is when you have ADHD, working memory is limited. When other people are talking and it can be hard to process their words, you only hold a few of them and then often miss the important parts. By the time the person has finished talking, things have dropped. Something drops. Okay, something drops every time. Not because you were not trying, because the cognitive container was not big enough to hold all four drops at once. And it's worse in the environment with like severe background noises. That's something that actually is even clear in research, right? Studies show that adults with ADHD exhibit slower and more and less accurate spoken word processing, especially in challenging listening conditions such as background noise. This slows down the link to its deficit, the working memory and sustained attention, which are critical to efficient speech processing. So the TV in the background, the restaurant in the ambient noise, the family gathering, there are conversations that are happening, once the phone call where your kids are asking you something at the same time. All of those listening conditions that most people navigate with, mild inconvenience, are genuinely cognitively impairing for us that have ADHD brain. See, when working memory capacity, I feel like I'm speaking too fast today because I feel like my thoughts are like, they're all over the coming out. So I'm trying to speak as fast as I can before I lose them all. Now, when the working memory capacity it was strained adult with ADHD, there's we were slower and less accurate in the processing of speech in noise, right? Slower and less accurate in real term. You missed what was said, you heard words but could not process their meaning fast enough to respond coherently. So you sound like, what you're talking about, right? And then on the other person, it looked like you were not paying attention when actually you were paying maximum attention. Okay, you was really, really, really paying attention, and your brain just ran out of the capacity. And then the cost when it comes to relationship, when your partner, your friend, your family member, your coworker experience the communication side of your ADHD, they do not see the neuroscience. They see someone who seems to tune out when they talk, and then who starts sentence and trails off. Someone who responds to something that's not quite what was said, who jumps before they finish, who talks too much about one thing and then cannot seem to stay on topic, who goes blank when asked a direct question, and they interrupt all of it. They interpret all of that in one lens, right? Which is that the behavior means when a neurotypical person does it, that we're not that when a neurotypical person does this type of thing, right, it usually means they're distracted, disinterested, dismissive, or disrespectful. But when it comes to someone with ADHD, it is our working memory drops something. It means that our thoughts arrive faster than the words could. It means that the background noise overwhelmed the processing capacity. It means that the impulse control could not hold the response in a long enough. It means that the executive function that was supposed to manage this whole conversation just ran out of resources. And then, right, that we experience the significant difficulties in social communications and interpersonal relationship. This is likely due to the challenges with articulating thoughts, misunderstanding, and impulsivity in our interaction. Now, communication difficulties significantly really impact our daily lives, our personal relationship, and our work performances. And the hardest part is that what happened or when it happened. You can feel the moment the conversation went sideways. You can see the look on the other person's face. You can shift the energy change. You want to explain to them, and then the no, and it comes out like that's not what you try to say, and you try again, it just keep on failing. But trying again requires the same executive function that just failed. So you either over explain and make it worse, or you get quiet and carry the weight of being misunderstood again, which I do that a lot at the time. For me, it's like if I did it one or two times, which just seemed like cause an issue, I just shut. I'm like, you know what, I don't want to be misunderstood, I'm just going to keep quiet. So some things that we can try to kind of help is like, for speaking, slow the output down. I know this sounds counterintuitive because the brain is racing, but deliberately trying to slow your speech gives us your executive function time to organize the thought before it comes out. It feels uncomfortable at first, it really does. I try. I don't always, it doesn't always work out for me, but I really, 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 really do try to just kind of slow down my thought process, right? So word finding, describe around the word, like when the word will not come out, instead of freezing or spiraling, try to describe what we mean. Say what it's related to, what it does, and what it feels like. Most people will fill in the blank, and the act of describing often retrieves the word anyway, so that might help. What is the other thing? For listening, reduce the competing input where you can. If you have an important conversation, turn off the TV, step away from the noise, make eye contact. There are no social things, right? There are cognitive accommodations for our working memory. So you're reducing the number of jobs your brain has to do simultaneously. Ask for repetition without shame. I know it sucks, but this is the big one. People like us with ADHD sometimes need to ask for clarification before they can respond clearly. I oftentimes say to my husband, I don't know what you mean by that. I don't like, I genuinely do not like, maybe I processed it, but I didn't really understand it fully. So I asked him like, hey, I don't know what that means. Like, what do you mean by that? So he has to explain to me. So repeat something, or give them, ask them to give you a moment of, silence, so you can try to process what really happened. Tell the person close to you what is happening, and not as an excuse, right? I always say our ADHD doesn't give us excuse to be terrible human beings, but it is information, right? Something like when you're in the background noise, I genuinely cannot process what you're saying, or something might sometimes, tell your spouse or your friend, like, my thoughts come out in a wrong way, bear with me. That simple disclosure can change the dynamic entirely, because now the person has context, and context changes a lot of the interpretation. And for the people who love someone with ADHD, please hear this. When we zone out, it's not about you. When the words come out wrong, it's not about us being carelessness, okay? What we ask you is to repeat something. It's not dismissal. It's the brain genuinely, like, we're genuinely trying to understand where you're coming from. 9 times out of 10, we probably already know it, but we just cannot, like, it just not clicking, right? And I'm gonna quote something from our faith, right? Just with faith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, and speak to people good words. That is ayah 83. So good words. And I always read that as an instruction about character: be kind, be truthful, be gentle. And it's absolutely that, but also read it now as an instruction about intention, because what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking for is goodness of the word, not perfection of his delivery, not the eloquence of the sense, but the goodness of what is behind it. And for someone with ADHD who genuinely intends, like, we genuinely try the good word, who is fully formed inside them, but when the brain doesn't come out, doesn't come out how it's meant to be. And I believe our intentions matter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees the word as it existed in our heart before the communication system got into the way. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, actions are by إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Actions are by intentions, right? So actions are by intentions. The intentions are communications as well, to connect, to be heard, to be understood. And the intention is real, and it is seen, even when the execution is imperfect, even when the word did not arrive the way it lived in our heart. Give ourselves grace for the gap between the thought and the word. Keep trying to close it, keep working on it, try to do whatever you can to fix it, you know what I mean? The thoughts are real. If this episode put language to something you have been feeling for a long time, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below and subscribe if you're new, because we have these conversations right here. This is not a character flaw, it's not us being rude, right? That is an ADHD brain regulating four simultaneous cognitive thoughts in a world that's designed communication for brains that do not work the way that ours does. So, with that being said, just wanted to leave that with you guys. Until next time, bye.